Hello and welcome to the ORCA pod, the eighth. I've stopped at my music, man. That was take two. Very unprofessional. Apologies. We have a big guest coming on, and thankfully he's not in the green room yet to see this. Start again, fresh. Welcome to the ORCA pod, the apex predators of Australian Survivor LRG podcasting, covering Canberra Survivor 3 versus the World. The World are almost gone. There's still two of them hanging on. One is the People's Champion. One is the Grand Inquisitor of Tribal Council, Bethany. And this week we saw a big move. It'll be really fascinating to get into this move and how it's going to play out for the rest of the game. I'm predicting maybe 2 more episodes if we go on Canberra Survivor history. So a lot to get into and a lot to cover. We will be having 2 fantastic guests on this episode. Yeah, I am, Aston. I am. Shut up. We have 2 fantastic guests. We have the King of Exile, the absolute commandant of Confessionals, Andrew, will be coming on to talk about his experience. This is a big get for the ORCA pod because we tried to get him on our coverage when we did the rank down of Exile and was not able to get him at Backyard 3. So getting him, very exciting. And then at the end of the show, we'll be interviewing Todd, sadly voted out on this episode. But before Andrew is here, I'll bring in, of course, my co-host. This week, we may have to do without the infamous Annabel, who is MIA. But, you know, she's a busy person. So we respect that. We're all a bit disappointed, but we respect that. And, of course, filling her shoes, no doubt, is the incomparable. I'm going to try to get big words out for this episode. The incomparable Dani. Welcome, Dani. Hang on, you're not here. I'm really faffing on this today. There we go. Welcome, Dani.
You are. You really got the nervous Nellies tonight, don't you?
I'm just a bit frazzled. I've had a busy day of podcasting issues, but I've got it sorted now. Welcome to the program.
Thanks so much. I'm not filling Annabelle's shoes. I'll fill my own. She is a star unto herself.
Well, you've got to fill them. This was your contractual obligation. So
I was here before she was, so I'm here.
We've just got to keep up the energy. We've got to keep up the energy and keep up the spice. So I want you to bring your spicier self.
All right.
Before we get into this episode, we have one of the boots from last week. We've already given him enough of an announcement and a bring in, but we're very excited to have him on the ORCA pod for the first time. The winner of the ORCA Award for Backyard Exile, as voted by the people and the ORCA committee. Welcome to Andrew. Welcome.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. Welcome. How are you both?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Pleasure to be joining you tonight.
Andrew,
so happy you're here.
We're so happy you're here. When you went into playing again, was there any, because you set such an incredible standard and legacy with your performance on Backyard Exile 3, did you ever have any doubts that it was going to be a difficult act to follow?
Look, firstly, thank you for those sentiments, and thank you for those that have shared those sentiments with you. But for me, I think coming into Canberra, my patch now, where I've lived for the last decade, I felt like it was very much, as we say in the casino, playing with house money. So look, I didn't know what to expect, but other than I was just going to go out there and shit talk around and have some fun.
Did you find it a very different experience? I appreciate you playing with the house money, but in Exile, you managed to have quite a lot of control of the game throughout the whole game. You had it before the swap. The swap was probably your most difficult position, where you had to pull some fancy maneuvers to get through. And then once you got back to the merge, you had a tight group and were able to control it until you were obviously too big a threat to keep around sort of the final 5. Here, you never seem to really, from the viewer perspective, get that grasp on the game that you were able to get on Exile. Is that how you felt at the time?
Look, yeah, I think so. But also, I think it was a byproduct of my willingness to play with house money. So I think, I walk in conscious that there's a risk I may be the only person that's played before, conscious that there's a risk people may recognize me. I see Loz old school Survivor shirt. And for me, I think I make a decision at that point in time to just say, rightly or wrongly, I need to get rid of her first. And then I basically push all the chips onto the table and say, this for me is all in. I'm going to throw everything I can to get rid of her because I saw her at that point in time as the biggest threat to me. My view as well was I would rather go out in that manner if I was going to go out that way, rather than be a passive sitting duck and have someone say, this guy has played before, he got towards the end, we should get rid of him. But, as we saw that decision, I had a pretty weak, my cards were maybe a 2-pair or a trips. Loz had the full house, and I think it did irreparable damage to me that I had to endure through the rest of the game.
Yeah, I mean, Lauren becomes a powerhouse so quickly, and then it's kind of like a hell hath no fury sort of a situation because she was done with you from the minute you put a name out there. So, yeah, that's hard to recover from.
Absolutely. I think in a couple of elements there, Loz is such a great player that I think and what I love as well. Look, I love a mafia boss. And I think Loz's approach to the mafia boss was, you took a shot at me, she survived, you're going to go down with concrete boots into the river, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I had to wear that lasted throughout the game. But then I think there was political damage to my credibility and reputation in the sense that literally 2 minutes in, I already started throwing barbs, and I was therefore seen as untrustworthy, unreliable, and, talking too hard, too fast, too soon. And for me, that was something I had to recover from, even though I was still in the game. And I think it manifested a couple of times throughout where I potentially didn't have enough weight to get the desired outcome I wanted.
You did recover, though, I think, very well in the swap. You took that opportunity to rebuild bonds with the original yellows that were with you, namely Pauline and Sabrina, by obviously looking to perhaps make a move on Oscar. We talked a lot on this show about the vote before the merge, that perhaps a losing move for you was not making the plunge there when you were immune as well, and bringing in an Aiden and a Squin and taking Oscar out at that vote, which you told Confessional that you were thinking of doing, but that may have just been for the sake of the edit and the television program. Were you ever considering that move on that particular vote?
Absolutely. For me, I will say, and I can attest that, there's a lot of talking and double speak from me. So it's like, the old group babushkas in the wheat fields trying to sift through the chaff to see what's the actual essence of truth and what's just chaff. But I also do like to put all options on the table and explore all options on the table. Certainly, I think removing Oscar at that point in time was under serious consideration. My recollection at the time was, I think there was hesitancy from Sab and Pauline, whether or not that was, I was still having that deficit of reliability and trust, or whether, I think another thing from memory at that point in time was the dynamics of what occurred when Anthea was voted out on the other tribe. I think that created maybe a hesitancy from the old yellows to say, well, actually, the 3 yellows there have survived. Maybe we should just kind of have this kind of like Eastern European nepotism where let's all just get all the yellows together and then we'll deal with the Currawong random birds. And then they're shot out of the sky, and then let's just have a kind, gentlemanly street battle amongst yellows. I think the dynamic, if Anthea had not been voted out, I think that could have also shifted the perceptions and dynamics on our side. That could have made Oscar a more sellable, palatable move to make at that point in time.
The hilarious is that exactly what happened on Exile, and you were in the numbers once again with the power group, 8 or 9 people from the original tribe. I think it was 8 of the original tribe were still there against 2 of the other tribe. But you were just in such a strong position there with your relationships that you hadn't been able to forge as easily here. You were very worried, according to your confessionals, about people identifying you from that prior game, which, you know, we talked up was a pretty incredible performance. And I do understand why you'd be worried that people would not just know you played before, but the sort of game you had played. In the aftermath, are you aware, did anyone know who you are? Had anyone seen that game?
I think, and I'm looking at Daniel, that perhaps there was 1 or 2 that did know that.
My bet is Eden. My bet would be Eden knew.
And Aiden.
Aiden knew, okay.
Okay, interesting.
But yes, so there was people. So look, I think I have some justification and validation that there was someone. May not have been on my tribe, but look, there was some awareness there. Look, my thinking was on that is with some of these games, the community is a community. It's, you know, somewhat homogenous in the sense that if you're following some of these games, you may watch the other ones as well. And then you have Loz in an old school Survivor outfit. And I think this is where one of my problems as being an economist, I looked at the risk premiums. I tried to calculate the variables. Yeah. And I said, look, small community, someone that's playing this game means they must have some idea about the community in general. And then old school Survivor must be a fan. And therefore, I've linked all those variables together, calculated the risk against the trade-off of blowing my guns too early. And look, it was what it was. And that's how chips fell where they did.
You got to equate the risk. I don't deny that. It's funny. I'm just in a position where I was like, I'm not sure how many people would know him, and it's just the data set of having done this show now for 80 or 90 episodes, and I can tell from the comments and I can tell from the people I talk to how many of them watched the season that I played on before they came and did an interview with me, and they just, you know, if they've watched something, they've watched one particular set. So, you know, obviously everyone who's in Perth knows who you are because they've watched most of the backyards, but it doesn't mean they watch Canberra and it doesn't mean they watch Melbourne. It's just too much. I think that people sort of stick to their particular brands they've been associated with. But Eden's one of the first people I've seen, that's how I know it's Eden, who's actually in the comments live mentioned things that happened in my season that I played. So I'm like, this guy's clearly watched it all. And Aiden was also a bit of a super fan. I think you had to do what you had to do. I think that's fine. It's a bit disappointing. Were you a bit disappointing when you went out? You know, Oscar tells us that he didn't mean to completely throw you to the wolves. You postulated that either that was his intent or he's either a complete idiot. When you went out, did you feel that he had deliberately tried to smoke you out of the game the way he did?
Look, I think at that point in time, and maybe the cynic in me was like, my old friend that I had labeled a rat many a times. You jumped to that conclusion. And look, he can, if he comes onto this, he can put his reflections on it. But at that point in time, my perspective was he used it as an opportunity to smoke me out.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I would like to also ask about you coming onto this season. I know you've been a part of the Canberra community for a while. I recall when I interviewed Dan when we did Canberra won on the rank down, that it was in fact your playing on Exile that sort of inspired him to even start Canberra Survivor. And you can actually, I saw you or heard your voice rewatching Canberra 1 for the rank down on the crew. Was this something that you'd always planned to do? Or was Dan like, please come and play? I just want to have you and your amazing confessionals on one of my seasons. Well, how did it come about for you to come and play on this one? Or were you perhaps a substitute? What happened?
Look, for me, I enjoyed my time on Backyard. Brian and Kyle do a great job over there. Hello to them. And for me, I felt like, I did a lot of what I wanted to do. I was probably in retirement, and various people said to me, why don't you do this? It's your patch. It's just down the road. And if you get booted first, it's, not much of a loss, right? I said, look, okay, come out of retirement for that. I do enjoy giving a stump speech now and then. But I think more than that, I think there was an intellectual curiosity I had about wanting to see how far you can get with basically delivering a stump speech and seeing how far you can twist people with, language and narrative. So there was that intellectual curiosity that continued, and I wanted to find out more. And also, obviously I would like to win. And also I still never had an idol, or I found an advantage in Backyard. So there were still things to do.
And you found plenty. You couldn't use any of them, but you found them here. So that was at least one step forward with the idol that you identified and buried.
Although I will say my friend still lives with me. So, love is not all lost.
Did you dig that up, or did Dan dig it up for you and give it to you?
Well, I thought you would, you do a great podcast. I thought you would have known that I was merely laying an egg to keep warm to finally hatch, and the dodo egg finally hatched. But yes, I did re-dig it up at the end of the day on day 2 before we left the site. And yes, I still got it with me now.
You had some wild confessionals in this season. The hungry hippo ones, or the completely inexplicable and non-clear possum magic one, which we didn't understand at all. What was your favorite confessional that you came up with? You really went to a next level with the confessionals. I felt on this, you're really playing that part up, which was fantastic, which is part of your value. What was your favorite one?
Look, I am not sure. I don't have favorites. I don't pick favorites. I think they come to you like, Patrick Swayze. She's like the wind, carries through me on the wind, and what comes out comes out. So I don't know. Maybe I'll put it back to you. What did you think was your favorite?
Well, it wasn't such the big elaborate. I talked about this last week, and I don't know if you watched the show last week, but it was the reference to Loz, Ed, and Todd being a triumvirate. And I wasn't sure if you were just using the term triumvirate as a power 3, or you were perhaps referencing one of the 2 ancient triumvirates of ancient Rome. And I felt that the connection, and I went into this, explained it last week, and I don't know, I may have been reading more than you intended, but I thought the comparison of the second triumvirate of Mark Anthony, Lepidus, and Caesar was such a great comparison to Todd, Ed, and Loz, because Loz is the big personality with a lot of influence, and everyone knows and loves her and respects her like Mark Anthony. You've got the secret strategic player hiding a bit in the background, looking to take charge in Todd. And then you had Lepidus, who was just there for the ride because they needed 3 people. And I felt like that comparison to that was I don't know if you meant that much by what you said, but I was right there for it.
Look, I clearly see you are also a man that likes history. So yes, there was an allusion there. Whether or not that was picked up or not is another thing. I think sometimes I use sometimes a lot of colloquialisms and sometimes phrases that may not necessarily be picked up, but it's good to see that one was picked up.
He loved it.
I did love it.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing was, did you know that Eden was an economist? Because you got really impressed with Eden's vote, the demand-supply curve he had on his vote for you. And you said that's a really good demand-supply curve, but I presume you didn't know Eden was an economist because you didn't say you knew that was Eden's vote.
Yeah, look, I can't remember. And also the other thing is I didn't really play much with. I didn't have an opportunity to play much with Eden and Bethany, the way the tribes had formed. So Eden may have mentioned that at the start in the the lineup.
Yeah.
And I've forgotten it, but yes, I had no idea who had done it. Although, on reflection, if you look at it, the graph wasn't that great. The graph wasn't that great. There was an actual error, if I recall. So, I retract that comment.
You're in the heat of the moment. You're getting voted out. You couldn't possibly concentrate properly on the graph that was put up meters away from you.
That's right.
Pauline has a question. She said, were there any wild analogy confessionals that you were surprised didn't make it on the show? She wants a release of the extra footage.
I think my response to Pauline, and Pauline being in Canberra may appreciate this. I think put an FOI into Daniel.
I have one final question for you. You came in wearing the fedora. Was that a tribute to King George?
No, and let's get the record straight, right? Let's get the record straight. Backyard filmed before George was ever seen on TV.
Before Brains Prawn?
Yeah, I believe so. At
the very least, before he wore the fedora on the returnee season. At the very least.
Correct. And on the second point, our season of Canberra was filmed before George was ever seen on the screen with a fedora.
Yeah.
And number 3, most critically, I think we're doing a disservice to Colombia because it's actually a Panama hat. So it is a wonderful Panama hat that I picked up in Colombia. So there.
Very nice. I guess the final question following on from that, we've reviewed, looked at, analyzed a lot of people with the rank down that we were doing. We haven't finished it, but we've done most of the seasons, and I think it's pretty clear to us, and I think to everyone in the community, that you're one of the strongest and most entertaining personalities that we've seen in the community. A lot of people would love to be on The Real Deal, but no, a lot of people don't have what it makes to get there. In an objective position, I do think that you would have the chance, just of how entertaining and how verbose and how interesting you are when you speak. Have you ever thought of, or would you want to go on The Real Deal?
I don't think I'm fit for The Real Deal, or a good fit for it. I am too used to living in a suburban life of luxury, relative luxury. Although, I've been trying to lose weight for a while. Perhaps this is the boot camp I need. So, look, open to consider it.
I think that you would stand a very strong chance of being cast, because I think you tick all the boxes that they want, and just being a fish out of water in the outdoors is just another box they would like to see ticked, because people like watching that. That's interesting from a television perspective. Dani, did you have any final questions for Andrew?
My biggest thing I always like to ask for people who've played several times, like what was your preferred experience? Like your first time or your second time out? What was more fun?
Dani has played twice as well, so she knows what it's like.
I think there's different elements to both, right? And I think for me, equally, were both as fun. And it's hard to pick, to say one was better than the other. And it's all for different reasons, right?
What about, who's your favorite cast? Which cast did you prefer?
Look, I think we had both casts were great, but I think some of the cast members of Canberra, I really enjoy.
I agree. I think this cast is incredible. I think the cast team did a great job with this cast.
Yeah, I think sometimes you're at 100%, but then I think maybe this is 102%. There's the extra. It's like a GST premium, right? Thanks to John Howard, there's a 10% GST on greatness of the Canberra cast, perhaps.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think you're right about that. You know, Exile had its issues in a production sense. They had to find a new location at the last minute. There was a bit of a casting overflow from the second season. But you know, I think in my view, and I'm sure you would share this view, but if you don't, you don't. Nothing has ever topped the moment in the swap at Exile where there was going to be a rock draw. You managed to get the extra rock advantage from your ally. You left it then to your one guy to basically take the fall. He didn't. He flipped, and you castrated this person like you were under some sort of threat after you got the fake rock. He was absolutely thrown to the wolves, and the way you then destroyed him after, but what was completely legitimate on his behalf, was a work of art. I'm sure that's probably your favorite moment for any of these things.
I will say that was a memorable moment. But you know, I enjoy mudslinging, and perhaps that was the most mud I've slung in a moment.
It was a great moment. It was great to see you get that opportunity. It was disappointing that you probably didn't get an opportunity to work some of your strategic magic so much here, just due to circumstances. But you're, of course, such an entertaining character. There's no way you're going to disappoint in that regard, and you didn't. So thank you for gracing us with your presence on one of these seasons again. And thank you for finally coming on the podcast. You know how hard I tried to get you to come on last time, and I appreciated that you had some negative experiences with the Australian LRG podcasting community as a viewer, and you weren't certain of the quality. But I'm glad you've been watching the show. I got that reference when you got throughout the random bird reference. So I appreciate you watching, and I appreciate you giving us a chance and coming on.
No, thank you. And on moment of indulgence, thank you to both of you and others you've had on, Annabel. You know, all of you put in a lot of effort and time to do this thing, you know, unpaid voluntarily, and it's much appreciated what you put back into the community yourselves. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you so
much. Okay, ciao.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye. What a legend.
Oh, that's such a good interview. So excited. I'm a little bit hot.
Yeah, you're a little red under the collar there.
It's hot in the room, but I don't. This is a passion rash, I think. Here, a mental passion rash.
It was zinging all your brain there. You were just like, hot eyes.
Oh, look, I think Andrew and I could get a coffee or a beer together and just chat about a lot of things.
When we go to Canberra, the two of you are going to be sat in a corner just using big
hours
words
and hours of history, economics, politics, everything that I love. Okay, so on with the show.
Yes.
After a couple of weeks of a bit of a ho-hum outcome, we finally get Oscar's big move.
Yes.
He finally gets the flip he was looking for. Is this, Dani, going to change the game from here? Or are we going to perhaps see a flip back from a Bethany Eden? Or are we going to now get it's every person for themselves?
I think we see a lot of fluidity from here. I think I am interested to see the fallout between Loz and Beth here, because we see so many confessionals from Loz talking about how Beth's her number one. That's the person she wants to go with, but she doesn't vote with her here. And we know that Loz doesn't necessarily love not being worked with. I see this is a free for all from here. I don't see this going the way we thought it would, which is that three. Because obviously Todd's gone. Is that strong to the end? I see all the people who've been moving around coming for those big players.
I want to take a step back to something you said about Bethany, and I want to flag the expression of interest that she put out at Tribal Council. It was a very interesting discussion point when I was watching it. I'm like, Bethany, what is going on here? You're saying to these disparate sides, tell me who to vote for, prove to me why I should be with you or them. But I felt that this was something of a smokescreen, because once Eden had decided to flip, she didn't have a lot of choice except to flip with him, because even if she stayed with the Loz group, it would only force a tie. And then she's probably flipping on the revote, right? She's not going to go to rocks for Todd. Todd needs to go anyway. He's a threatening player, but particularly for Bethany. Todd is exactly the sort of player that could get her spot at a final tribal council. So I wonder if Bethany was doing that whole thing, knowing she was already going to do what she was going to do, but as a way of not completely blindsiding Loz. She was making Loz aware that her vote was not necessarily locked in the way that Loz had thought. Otherwise, what was the point of it?
I would love to say that it's a smokescreen because that'd be smart play. I just don't think it was. I think she was generally conflicted about what side to sit on, and I think she went because she didn't want to have to go to Rocks. Beth has been a great player and a lot of fun. I just don't think in that moment that there was like, I'm going to smoke screen this. I just didn't see that depth of strategy.
Well, maybe I am known to give players too much credit sometimes.
I would love it if it was, because then I'd be like, fucking kudos. She seemed genuinely like, I don't know what the fuck to do.
Well, the thing is, it's pretty clear what to do when you're going to force the tie. Like,
yeah, which is why she voted the way she did. But I just don't think she really wanted to do that. I think potentially by voicing her thing, she was hoping to like maybe have a conversation with Ed at that point in time and try to like just like actually solidify one way or the other where we're going.
On the other hand, though, whether smokescreen or not, she should be in. Aston says, now we put that out there, we won't even know the real answer. I think he's suggesting that Bethany will adopt my
yeah, absolutely. She's going to say, oh, of course it was a smoke screen.
Either way, she should be in a reasonable position, in my view, to reunite with Loz. I get what you're saying. Loz doesn't like being betrayed, doesn't like being misled. But, you know, she's a Survivor player. She's a Survivor fan. This is the final 7, and she knows things that get funky.
Well,
and it was never her intent. Yeah. It was never her intent to go to the end with Todd. She told us that Todd needed to go eventually. She actually told us that her final 3 was with Eden and Bethany. That option is still on the table. Though if I was her, I'd probably be looking more at an Ed and Bethany situation now. But because you presume that Bethany will come to Loz and say, look, Eden had flipped. He told me the last minute. That's why I was so frazzled at the tribal council. It was either going to be a tie or I just vote out Todd. Todd wasn't part of my plans in the end. It wasn't part of your plans. And also, let's be fair, Loz, right? Situation is this. You had 3 people and it was me and Eden. And I believe you that you want to go with us, but now it's a fairer position numbers-wise, and I can have more faith that this group is actually going to the end. We don't need Todd anymore. We have a 4-3 over Oscar, Sab, and Pauline anyway. So this just makes me feel a bit safer. It's got rid of someone that we needed to get rid of anyway, and we still have the numbers.
Not completely fair. It definitely puts her in a much better position. And I mean, and I think as upset as Loz may be, she will know she needs Bethy. She can't just blow up her shit because she's not going to get further in the game because everyone knows what a threat she is. She needs to be surrounded by other threats, as she says in this episode, that like she needs to keep those bigger people around her so she's not the biggest sitting target.
Is there anything that Todd could have done to save himself? Besides winning immunity.
I think he could have rallied numbers for Loz.
Okay, interesting.
I just think I think she is. Everyone sees her as a threat, but she has a lot of power. But if someone who was like her right hand man, as far as people were seeing it, was able to be like, you know what, let's make this move. I think he could have rallied the numbers there.
I think you're right. I think that's an even bigger fish than Todd. It only makes Todd a target the next time anyway, because like he just did the move on Loz, right? So let's get rid of him.
Yeah.
This grouping of Pauline and Sab and Oscar is really interesting because they say they want to go to the end together because they don't really know who they're going to beat. Like they don't know who's going to win that, right? I think that's and I don't know who's going to win that. Like that's a
Yeah,
They're
it
all the same.
really, that would also, like, I mean, depends on the end game and what that looks like and what they do from here. But like what they sell from here. Like if a final tribal council, those three sitting there, my vote is so open, and I need them to pitch me the final tribal to tell me what you've done. Because a lot of it has been like, besides Oscar, the other two haven't been out playing loud. Like Oscar, you know, I mean, they say in this episode so many times, everyone knows that Oscar was itching for his move. He's been waiting. He's been like biding his time. So he's
young.
Never done
He's
it yet.
young and he's exuberant.
Yeah,
He's
he's
got
young and energetic, and like everyone's like, he just wants it. So let's give him this move because, like, you know, he just needs to get it out of his system. So like the minute you're going into that, you're like, oh well, he's kind of like a foot in front because he's like, you can see his game. Whereas I don't underestimate a Pauline at Final Tribal Council to come in and be like, well, yeah, I was in every conversation. I knew what was happening. Has she voted correctly?
I would think Pauline's going to win if those are the final three. She's still got either an idol to play or an idol to, hey, I had an idol, I didn't have to play.
Yeah.
Either way, like I think Pauline, and I think she knows the game well. I think Pauline has the right level of confidence, but also self-deprecation that the jury will appreciate. You know, she'll be like, at this point in the game, I was actually really worried that I hadn't done anything. I was going to be seen as a goat, and so I was looking at these options. But she will need the move that she looks to do to make that happen. It's going to be difficult to identify, I think, a move now that can be attributed solely to her.
Yeah.
But I can't see people wanting to vote out that group over, you know, if you look at an Ed and a Bethany, an Ed, a Loz, maybe they do come back together because the four of them are such big targets. Ed isn't a strategic player, and he could, I think, come up with a final tribal council speech that could actually sell his game and what he's done. If he knew the game well enough to actually how to sell that, but I don't think he does. So I do think he's an easy person to take. I don't think the super fans will vote for him, but you know, a Todd might if he's bitter. John would. You know, there are votes there to be had. And the thing is, Ed's now talking about doing strategic moves. He's saying,
so he was talking about the flip on Todd and Loz.
He needs to do it at some point. Maybe one more vote, he said. Yeah.
I mean, Todd goes. I don't think he should do that from here. I don't, because like, I mean, strategically he's not a threat, but he's still a physical threat. Like, I get that he's only won the one immunity, but like he's always dominant. Like in these sorts of games, it's hard to look past such a physical body of a person to be like that person will be in my way to win immunities. I even though he's not strategic, you can't rule him out as like a physical threat in your head in that fast paced environment. I think flipping on Lauren would be to his detriment.
I wouldn't lock him in to win a bunch of challenges. You know, look, Real Survivor.
But he hasn't either. But I'm just saying, in that moment, in how quickly it happens, like when you just see what's in front of you, and there's a big specimen of a man, you're like, that's a threatening person.
And I think even the super fans, while they're in the game, worry sometimes about the likability of their opponents, even if they don't have.
Absolutely. He hasn't pissed anyone off. He's not unlikable. If he manages to say, like play on the fact that I was always in the majority, I was always well liked, I was never really targeted ever, and I'm here.
It can work if he's against two people that people are generally annoyed with. But it doesn't really work if you were someone who perhaps was a bit more strategic. I think it also makes a difference that if he was playing Real Survivor and you're handing out $1 million, then you're like, you know what, I like him. He can have $1 million. I think that's less of a factor in these games where there's no money like that on the line. So giving someone.
I don't know who he sits next to here where he wins.
Oscar? I can't see Oscar winning in a million years.
Really? I think Oscar could win a bed.
Everyone has just the worst perception of Oscar. Young, overeager, unsubtle. I don't know if any of these things are true, but that's everyone's perception.
I get that, but I don't think he's also like. I think he has the full ability to talk to his game at Tribal Council, and there's enough super fans there to appreciate what he's done.
Well, but if it's him and Ed and anyone else, I'm probably voting for that other person. Ed and Bethany, Loz, Pauline. Did I miss someone? Sab. I'd vote for all of them over those two.
If it was Ed, Sab, and Oscar, I'd vote for Oscar.
I don't know. I like Sab's vibe. maybe you should say some things that will get me to vote for her. I don't know. It comes down to the Tribal Council, I suppose. I don't know if there's much more to talk about the vote off. Do you want to take us back to the beginning of the episode?
Yes, I love we talked about this off the air. I love the beginning of this episode. I'm a sucker for like the social sciences, the like personality quizzes. So I loved getting into the depths of what people thought. I mean, I lived for Pauline, for Sab's Harry Potter confessional comparisons. I'm devastated that Jules is not here because Jules is such a Harry Potter nerd like me.
Jules has a Harry Potter tattoo. Can we actually consider these Harry Potter comparisons she made and whether we agree with them?
Yes. So she said that Ed was like Cedric Diggory, large, tall, smiley.
Yeah, that's not how I perceive Cedric Diggory, to be honest.
No, I think Cedric Diggory is a little more competitive and strategic than Ed is.
Yeah. So I didn't love that one. Do you know what's a better comparison for Ed? Oliver Wood.
Yes, lovable larrikin. Yeah.
Sabby in the chat. I don't know. You were here earlier. I hope you hear Sab. That's the one.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. I like that a lot better. Well done. Pauline, Luna Lovegood. I thought that was a very smart comparison to Luna. I thought that was great. I really enjoyed that. She called Todd Harry Potter.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Did she then do a whole thing about how Todd is like a bit into himself, and that's what Harry Potter is? Did she say that?
Yeah.
I don't know if Todd's that into himself, to be honest, but Harry Potter certainly is.
I respectfully disagree.
About which one? About Todd or about Oliver Wood? Do you like my Oliver Wood comparison? All right, continue.
She called Oscar Ron Weasley.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and it's a reference, and she called herself Hermione.
Well, obviously she's going to say that.
yeah. I mean, doesn't it? And that was the length of them.
And Who didn't she do?
Pardon?
Let's give some comparisons to the one she didn't do.
What? So Loz.
Interesting. Didn't do Loz. It's hard to come up with on the spot. So we're going to give Sab the credit here. She didn't do Loz. She didn't do Eden. She didn't do Bethany.
Loz, Eden, Beth.
Loz gives me Draco Malfoy vibes.
Yeah, I was about to say she's kind of more on the evil spectrum of things. She's not quite as villainous as like Bellatrix, but she's definitely like she's a bad guy with like a little underneath a little bit of a golden heart. I like that. She's Draco.
Bethany could be a McGonagall maybe, or maybe because she's just angry at everyone, or maybe a Rita Skeeter vibe sometimes.
Yeah, Rita. I like that as a Rita Skeeter. Yes. Yeah,
I enjoy that. Characters. And who are going to Eden?
Is he like a Gilderoy Lockhart sort of a?
I want to give him more one of the Weasley twins. He's just a troublemaker.
Actually, Fred or George. Yeah, I like it.
You don't know I'm a Harry Potter nerd. I've got like an official Snape wand, mate. My favorite obscure character, by the way, is Cormac McLaggen, by the way. For those
Cormac McLaggen. All right. Very nice. What does he vomit?
Okay. Continue. Okay, that was a fun bit. We've just had a fun 3 minutes.
Yeah, that was fun. And then they talked about spirit animals. Beth, I thought it was hilarious that she thought her spirit animal was a manatee of all spirit animals to pick from. That was I didn't like that we didn't get into like the full like why. What would your spirit animal be? My
my Harry Potter Patronus on Pottermore, as we're
Yes.
getting into the full nerdism here, is a snake because I'm a Slytherin on that
Yeah.
quiz as well. And I'm a snake. But my thing animal would probably be a sea turtle
A sea turtle. Why?
because they're cool.
Because they're cool. And I'm cool.
There's also the favorite dinosaur. It's probably the favorite dinosaur
Favorite
question as
dinosaur,
well.
yeah. I can answer that one. Mine's just a velociraptor. No, not a velociraptor. What am I talking about?
Velociraptor was the wrong answer. I think Todd gave that answer, and Bethany was
No,
nodding.
Oscar. Oscar said he was a
Oscar gave that
velociraptor.
answer, and Bethany was nodding. And he said, "Oh no, he changed it. Oh no,
And
it's
then he was
a
a brontosaurus.
Brontosaurus or Brachiosaurus." Yeah.
Mine's a pterodactyl. There,
Very good.
that's pterodactyl.
I always forget the name of mine. It's like the one that's like got a hard shell, like a turtle, and it's got this bit on the end of its tail with like spikes.
Yeah.
Allosaurus, I think. Allo something saurus.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Sabrina liked my Rita Skeeter for being.
Yeah, I thought that's very
funny. She likes my comparisons. They go
sad. I like it too. Well done. Yeah. Again, devastated for Jules that she's missing this because she'd have a lot of strong opinions. What's the water one?
Okay, I'm gonna get off the dinosaurs. Sorry. I felt. Thank you. Sab and I are like kindred spirits. Ankylosaurus. That's my favorite.
Very nice.
Wow. We're just connecting here on so many levels. We had the situation where this was a really fun thing. What I liked most about this segment is there were clearly wrong answers.
Yep.
Like if you said the wrong thing to Bethany, like I think it was the same when she's asking about the star signs. But honestly, people and I know you're a little bit into star signs, Dani, and I've known people that are into star signs, and they're legitimate wrong answers. Like when you say you're a particular star sign, people that are into star signs will be like, "Oh no, we can't be friends now."
Yeah, definitely. And it depends. Obviously, it also depends on what star sign you are, as like what your compatibility is with others. So, like, and Jules and I get this all the time because we're both Scorpios, and we say that to some people, and they're like, "Oh, fuck me, Scorpio, Jesus Christ." So, I get that.
The generic one of 12 zodiacs doesn't really give you much of an identification of what person's like. You need to do their full chart to actually get their assessment.
100%. Absolutely. You need the big three. Yeah, the big three at a minimum.
Where was your blah blah and your blah blah when you were born, etc.
Yeah, so you kind of want your rising, your moon, and your sun.
Yeah. All right. What was the next bit of thing that happened? Did we then go to the challenge, or was there some more interesting stuff?
Yeah, then we get Ed calling himself manipulative, which I thought was quite funny.
I think Ed's contemplating the possibility of doing something slightly mean, and that's making him feel like he's manipulative.
Well, because I think he said because he lied to Andrew, so he didn't tell Andrew that Andrew was going, even though Andrew asked him to, and he was like, "Yeah, I definitely will do that," and then didn't. So he felt very manipulative, not telling Andrew that he was the vote, which it made me giggle. I was like, I don't think you could ever be manipulative. Like, bless you, even if you.
Well, he was lying to Andrew, but I think the point is Andrew wasn't buying it, Ed. So don't worry about it. Andrew sniffed out that wasn't what was happening. Pauline's still wandering around with the croissants. Is this just is this a gimmick? Is this some part of the advantage? And then she forgot them. I think she left them at the
toilet. The footage where she runs off and runs back.
I'm like, where is she going? I'm like, oh, she's going to get the croissants.
And it was a very odd timing because it was like when she was talking about her idol, and then I was like, did she leave her idol somewhere? And she's just remembered mid conversation. She's running off to get it, and then she runs back with the croissant. I was like, what the fuck is happening?
And it would annoy me to be like constantly holding this plate like flat. Like, Pauline, I don't know how you're doing it or why you're doing it. Maybe she thinks this is Pauline's big move, right? If she puts the croissants down, a crew member might pick them up. Animals or insects might get into them. She wants to hold on to it because she wants to get to tribal council, the final tribal council, and flag how the croissants gave her the advantage, which gave her the idol, and she's been carrying around in their face the whole time. Maybe there's something there she's planning on doing.
Yeah. I would like that. I would enjoy that.
Sab's spirit animal is Pauline.
Her run was so cute. It was just so chaotic. It was like, what just happened? Why are you running away?
And she's got the idol. It wasn't very well hidden.
Yes, but it's huge. So I enjoyed the cover where they were talking about pockets and things like that. And she said it was her Ventolin in her pocket when she was talking.
Well, Is she also lying about being asthmatic like I did about my Ventolin? I thought this was a real throwback to my fake Ventolin puffer.
I'm playing a fire reference. Yeah.
That I said that I had I went back to try and get an advantage that I thought I saw to get away from the tribe. I said I dropped my inhaler. I did have an inhaler. It was my daughter's.
Yeah.
And I brought it with me just to give myself a bit of a stimulant in the morning. You know,
yeah.
It gives you stimulation.
Yeah.
So and I used that, and so I wondered, is Pauline actually asthmatic, or is this an equal asthmatic style ploy in the spirit of my
all great questions to ask. All great questions to ask
we'll get to
when we
that.
speak to her.
But I must say, look, I'm not a woman, obviously, and I don't appreciate. I can't fully understand what it's like to be a woman and be given 0 pockets on essentially anything that you ever purchase to wear, and that's going to be doubly hard in the game of Survivor. But this skirt that she's picked up,
it's perfect.
Looks great. It's got hidden pockets, and they're better than pockets in a pair of pants that a man might have, because they just hide all the advantages.
Yeah,
it's a flowy skirt.
Yeah. No, it's great.
Everyone's going to be wearing these in the future.
Yeah. Floral skirts all over the place. Absolutely. I'm gonna pull that out next time I play.
It's the ultimate idol protection outfit.
Absolutely.
So what a great idea, and I love it. I love that it's been able to come into play with her actually getting the idol.
Yes, no, I do look forward to seeing what she does with that. Because I feel she's such a super fan. I'm surely she's cooking up so many different scenarios in her head to claim a move with it.
I think if she can claim a move with it, and I think she'll probably have to play it on someone else that isn't her, which is, that's the risky move, but that's the big move. I don't
think anyone's targeting her at this point, so she needs.
That's right. That's why I think she's gonna have to use it on someone. She'll probably get to the last tribal council where you can play it, like Final 5 or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's Final 5.
And be like, I can either just play this on myself, even though I'm probably not going, or I could do something here and save Oscar or save Bethany or whoever the hell. Like, but the thing is, like, for her, she's unlikely to be saving someone worth. Like, there isn't a bad move for her. Like, this is the situation. Like, she's going to be saving a threat, and then people will be like, "Why did you save that threat?"
Yeah, it depends. I think it would depend on who she sends home.
Yeah,
I think that'll be the big. Like, it depends on who was sent home because of that idol play.
I think the best person she could send home with it potentially is someone like an Ed, because on the face of it, he might. Well, actually, I think Ed could go both ways. You could send Ed out and say, like, "Oh, Ed was a big threat. Everyone liked him. He's going to win. He's going to win the final immunity. I've given myself a better chance to win that challenge." Blah blah blah. Or you actually save Ed and you go, "Oh, it's a big move to save Ed because like Ed's like the big power guy." But what has he actually done? Like, he's not threatened. I'm not threatened by him. I was happy to come to the end with him. Something like that might be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. All the things she could do.
It'll probably be nothing. Idols are never played interestingly or correctly ever. Like, they're very rarely played in an interesting or effective way. Particularly in recent Survivor, I don't think in any of the LRGs that we've covered, like other than your boot, but that was just advantage getting.
Yeah. That was more just like self-preservation.
Yeah, that's the circumstances. Of course, you're going to play your advantage. Yeah. You can just a standard advantage play. You just don't see it be very interesting very often.
Yeah, it's true. And especially in LRGs, it's so hard. Like, I know we talk about it all the time. Like, being so fast, like trying to figure out how to do it properly on top of everything else you're trying to figure out in half an hour between immunity and tribal councils. It's rough to make it make sense.
What happened next that is worth discussing? They go to the challenge?
What happens next? We see Ed and Oscar talk about a young person's alliance, and then we go to the challenge. And I love idle hands. I love we did that. We played it at the most recent season of Malviva. So that was my first chance having a go round of that.
It's a good challenge. I like the strategies. I like how they gave us the brackets.
I loved the bracket. I was like, I love this bracket. I thought it was so. I've literally written. I was like, I love the bracket. I thought it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
I thought that was good. I liked the how Ed, hasn't seen the challenge before. He sees the way that Sab, I believe, did it, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm going to do that, do it better."
Yeah, I like
He's
it.
that to win the game, breaks the actual idol, and he's so bloody apologetic for it. There's also a point
bless him.
Before or after this where he talks about how his friends call him puppy, which I think
that's the beginning when they're talking about spirit animals. He said, "My mum."
Yeah, because like we've been calling him a lab for like 7 or 8 weeks. We saw it too.
And he says that he goes, "People say that when I'm not even in the conversation. That's just like a thing that comes up and people say about me." And I was like, "Oh yeah, we've done that since we started the podcast."
I don't know if he watches. He's never live, so I don't know if he's familiar with our comparisons. But yes, we absolutely see it.
Absolutely.
What happened after that? The challenge and the scramble. Was there anything worth talking about that we haven't discussed?
I don't think so. I think we see everybody's different points of view. We see Loz basically saying that she can beat everybody there. I fear she's starting to overestimate her power over her allies because we see that conversation. I mean, the beginning where Ed's thinking about it. Everyone knows they have to turn on her. So I'm curious as to how she's able to, because she keeps poo-pooing people's ideas. So I don't know how long she is for this world if she continues down that track of being like, no, I don't think so. I don't like that.
Who were you saying was doing that?
What? Loz.
Yeah. She needs to look. If this round she needs to now become, she's lost the power, and so she's got to be more adaptable and accepting of other ideas. But look, she's just too threatening. I feel that no one. I don't think Ed's planning. Like, it's clear Ed was not planning on getting it to the end. So I think she would have to win out to make it.
Yeah. But the minute she does win, like, one more immunity, it's like, well, even more threatening because she's already won 2 immunities.
Yeah.
So she's like she's an all-rounder. Like, I'm just like, surely in the next 2, she's the vote.
Now, we've got Todd waiting in the backstage, and we'll bring him in a moment. We've got a bit of housekeeping just to cover first that I realise we've omitted to do. We haven't awarded Brommies for like 3 weeks, I reckon.
We haven't. Yeah, that's true.
So we need to do some quick Brommie awards for the orcas of the episode. I don't think we did the one with. It's been a long time. I don't think we did the one where Bethany and Eden flipped with Loz on John. Would you want to give that one to Loz or to Bethany? I think Loz. Yeah. Then we have the merge. I think it's got to be John.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, yes.
We have then last week's double tribal. No one decided to do anything in particular that makes me think. Just give it one to Andrew on the way out, maybe.
I don't know. I'm just trying to read really quickly through my notes.
Nothing happened. It was a boring episode. But this one was much more exciting. Who would we? I'm just throwing that one at Andrew for old time's sake. And then who would we give the Brommie to for this episode? Who was the most orca? My gut feel is it is Oscar.
Yeah, I think it's Oscar. I think it's Oscar here. I think he finally pushes his weight enough around to make that move happen. He's been biding his time, and he's like, no, now.
And he did it with no subtlety. Forced it upon everyone. With no real reference to how it's going to affect his game moving forward. That's what we like to see from the orcas. And we should also now just do a quick check on the scores. Of course,
finally there is somebody.
Yeah, well, I think we should just stop here because if we look at the current standings, I'm in a good spot. If you see here, bring that in. Add space. There we go. I'm on 30 points. Now, look, it's because I've lost everyone but Ed, and you're down on 4, so maybe we could stop. But no, you've now got Todd voted out, and Todd is how many left? 7. So he's worth 9 points. Plus, there were 3 votes not for him, so he's worth a 12. But I think I can pretty much just say you're going to win this because, you have so many people left. You're probably going to have the final 3. You're in a fantastic position. But what the fans really care about is the people's champion here. He's still in the game. If he makes final 5, the drinks are on CK in Canberra, and all he's got to get through now is 2 more tribal councils. Not guaranteed, but
I reckon I think there's a high chance of getting through these next 2. At least the next one.
Or at least the next one. Like I see a lot, maybe a bit of Losman's an immunity. I don't know.
Yeah.
He could go out sick. That would be a sad state of affairs for everybody.
It would be a sad state of affairs.
Remove that. And now we're going to bring in Todd, who played such a great game in strategically, socially, very middle of the radar. Like not under the radar. Like I think everyone knew that he was there and had a position of influence. That's why Oscar was wanting to target him so much. Mm-hmm. But I think it was a really measured and balanced game that he was playing very, very strongly throughout the whole thing. Looking forward to having a chat with him. And now we welcome him. Welcome, Todd.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. Do you agree with the Harry Potter comparison?
Oh, look, I'll take it.
Who do you feel like you'd be more aligned to in the Harry Potter universe?
Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah, mate. Yeah, I'll go with Harry Potter. Yeah,
I'll take the main character. That's fine.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you knew about Canberra Survivor or the general LRG community and what inspired you to come out here and put yourself on the line for this game?
So I actually know Dan. Dan and I used to work together at the same school. And I also know Soph from season 2. The 3 of us actually worked together. And since I've actually moved to a different school since then, and I've dragged Soph across with me. So the 2 of them kind of got me involved in the community. Dan encouraged me to apply, and I was fortunate enough to get a spot.
Were you a big real life Survivor fan?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
How much so?
I wouldn't say like I've watched it all, but I'm not the kind of person that remembers like all the players and all the things that happened. I really enjoy the show, but I wouldn't say like I'm at the super fan level. But I'm a fan.
Okay.
So was your plan, I would say it was your plan to be the player that we saw, the sort of strategic, mild-mannered, staying in the middle of things, forming strong social relationships to enable you to make strategic moves. That was what we saw. I would bet that's who you intended to be. Is that correct?
Yep, that's pretty much spot on. Had a plan going in to try to lay as low as possible on day 1, not to stick my neck out too far, just to make some good bonds with people, set myself up, I think, in a good position heading into merge. And then on day 2, possibly try to make a few moves, but try to maybe keep my threat level a little bit lower. I thought I was doing a fairly good job of keeping that threat level low. I thought there were people that were more obvious threats in the game at that point in time. So watching it back from the moment merge happened and seeing that Oscar just had it out for me straight away and it just put a big target on me and was fixated. I was quite surprised by that because I thought there were a couple of more obvious people than me at that point in time. I thought I was a threat. I just thought that I was doing a fairly good job of kind of hiding that as much as possible.
I think that you were. I think the difference is that Oscar saw you as a threat to him because I think he saw you as similar to him. I think you're a bit more subtle of a player, but I think that he saw that, you're the sort of guy that gets his sort of spot, whereas you can always take out those shields that you'd surrounded yourself with. Like no one's letting Loz get to the end, so it doesn't matter if she's in the final 5, right? And she wins out. Ed presents as a threat, whether he is or not at the final tribal council would have to be seen. But I think from Oscar's point of view, he saw you as also someone who could take control of the game. What was really interesting is we started this episode with you thinking that you were in between both groups, that you'd been able to form a new bond with the former swapped yellows that were on the Rando Birds by virtue of the vote out of John. without you knowing, of course, that you were only saved by the fact that you were immune. Did you have any inkling that was the potential situation, or did you really feel that was just a slaughterhouse for John no matter what happened?
I didn't realize to what extent I was in trouble. I knew that I had to win immunity at that challenge, that if I didn't, that there was some potential I would go. I did think John was probably the easier target because I didn't see what was happening behind the scenes as much. And I was more thinking I needed to win then to stop John from winning, not realizing how much I actually needed to win to save myself.
And so then you come in thinking...
I was just going to say, I did actually, like when you've just said about the start of that episode, kind of putting myself in the middle, I actually felt this was the time in the game for me to try to make some pivots and shift things a little bit. The way the edits kind of come across is as though the new Ginendera tribe, that we were at a tight 5. I didn't necessarily see things that way. I felt that a lot of the votes that had happened when John was voted out the first time, when we got to merge, like we were voting similar, but we were voting because of, I think, similar just by convenience, not necessarily because all 5 of us were on the same page about what we wanted to do. Earlier in the game, when we voted out John that first time, I would have much rather Ed and go at that vote, and that was something that both Ed and I wanted, but Loz was fairly adamant at that point in time that it needed to be John, that he wasn't trustworthy. And so there were a few things about the dynamics in that group of 5 that I saw Eden as a threat. Loz was quite domineering. Like it didn't feel like something that was going to work for me long term moving forward. And so I saw an opportunity to possibly shift to the other side. And I thought I actually proposed something pretty good to Oscar, Sab, and Pauline. But little did I know that I was proposing it to the one person who was never listening to what I was offering.
Danny's postulated on this show, how could you have you saved yourself? And she's postulated that if you had perhaps gone for a bigger flip, if you'd gone to Oscar and co and said, let's take out Loz and not just simply split the votes on the 2 former rando birds. Do you think that like, you won't know the answer to this, Oscar would know the answer to this perhaps, but do you think that might have been it's a bigger swing, but in retrospect, do you think that might have gotten some more traction?
Possibly. I think my strategy was always trying to lay low, even though I was doing strategic things. And so what I proposed to the other 3 was, if we split the vote and we appear to still be voting along original Canberra lines with Ed and Loz, and split the vote, then Eden or Bethany would go, and then we would actually be myself, Oscar, Pauline, and Sab, a majority 4, without anybody actually realizing that had taken place. So trying to do something strategic, shift things up without actually people realizing that I had maneuvered myself across until it was too late. But the big move, maybe it would have worked, saying Loz instead of splitting. But I think just seeing the way Oscar was talking about me, I really probably don't think there was anything I could have done to change his mind.
I think you're right, because even if you do suggest Loz, well, Oscar doesn't want to do that because that's your move now, and he wanted his move, which was you. So if you do your plan of voting out Loz, then Oscar's achieved nothing in terms of his own resume. And equally, I do like what you're saying, though. I do hear about your plan right there moving forward. A final 4 with you, Oscar, Sab, and Pauline has to look pretty good to you, particularly if you're the person who engineered that 4 coming together.
Look, you don't want to sound cocky, but I think I would have had a pretty good chance against those 3 at the end. At this point in the game, you can't predict what's going to happen moving forward. But I felt at this point in the game, if I sat at the final 3 with any combination of those people, I felt I probably had a pretty good shot of winning. I felt there were people on the other side that I could have beaten, but I also felt that there were people that would have been tougher to beat at final 3.
What a disappointing circumstance. We could have had the trinity of Harry Potter, Hermione, and Ron Weasley at the final 3. And Ron Weasley's gotten all Ron Weasley can't handle that Harry's getting all the credit and has to go and bitch about it and take Harry out and ruin our opportunity to have the true Harry Potter triumvirate in the final 3. It's very disappointing.
To me, I think, doesn't that make Oscar Voldemort?
He took you out. Very good. The going back to what you talked about, the John vote, I absolutely agree. Not in any way a sensible outcome for you or Ed. I think John was loyal to both of you. I think the fact that he flipped on people that he was never really aligned with is not flipping at all. Like, you don't have to be aligned with people because they're on your starting tribe. You have to be. Flipping is on people that you made promises to or you were in alliance with, and then you abandon them and vote against them.
I couldn't agree more, and that was exactly my thought. I can see in watching it back, Bethany in particular did a great job of convincing Loz that.
I don't think Loz needed much convincing. So
no, I don't think so either. I don't think so either. But that John was a flip-flopper. John was not a flip-flopper. John was never with Anthony, Eden and Bethany. He saw an opportunity to align with people. He didn't flip on anyone as far as I'm concerned. And I felt he was loyal. He showed his loyalty. And I wanted to honor that and continue to move forward with him. I actually trusted John. And one of the first conversations that I actually had on day 2 after merge, when John got back in, was trying to repair that with him because, it was shown me saying, like, I didn't lie to you, John. I was not voting for you when I had that conversation with you, and then things shifted because John was someone that I felt that I could actually work with for a long period of the game, but it just didn't work. And I voted for him, I think 3 times, and I wish I didn't have to vote for him any of those 3 times. But to me, at those points in time, there wasn't much choice that I had. And actually me sticking my neck out to save John was only going to backfire on me as far as I'm concerned, because everyone had just had this fixed mindset about him that he was a flip-flopper, an agent of chaos, couldn't be trusted, whereas I just had a completely different perspective of him.
Well, he wasn't that. He was actually quite obvious and honest, and that was actually his style. So
I also and I've said this before, I don't think, because I think Loz could see you and Ed and John being like a new little threesome, a new little bromance running along, and she was like, no, these 2 are mine and have been mine from the beginning. I need to cut out this new force because I need this control. So as much as she ran on the flip-flop train, but I think there was it didn't take much to push her there, because she was like, why am I on an outer here? I don't believe
Loz believed what she was selling there about the flip-flopping.
No, I don't think so either. She was just happy to ride that train because she was like, well, that's not a person that I want in my tight little trio that I have going on right here.
But she can't also roll into the conversation with Todd and Ed and go, I just had a great chat with Bethany about how men suck and how we want to vote out.
Exactly.
Still,
and look, it worked for Loz. Like, Loz in that vote positioned herself in that she had Ed and I as a 2, and that she felt she had Ed and Bethany as a 2, and that she could pick which way she wanted to actually go. So, look, I think that vote worked really well for Loz. It just, I don't think it was the best for Ed or I at that particular point in time.
Absolutely.
And people have asked, like, what's your biggest regret from the game? And the obvious one is to say, trusting Oscar and trying to form an alliance with him when he was trying to get you. But for me, it's going back to that first time we voted out John, and I wish I actually was more forceful in trying to actually save him, because to me, Eden was a far bigger threat, and I would have much rather see Eden go at that point in time. Yeah. And look what ended up happening. Eden was the one who voted for me, and it ended up costing me my game. So that was, for me, that was the mistake that I made. I had individual immunity at that point in time. I did have probably a little bit more sway and power that I could have tried to use, even if it was forcing a 3-3 tie and potentially saying, hey, Ed, John and I, we're not budging. We're 3. We're going to go all the way to rocks. To Loz and Bethany, do they do that at that point in time? Who knows? It's early in the game. Do you want to risk it?
About Eden's advantage? Because I think that actually, that swings it.
Yeah, he did have that advantage, but
you know about it.
But I didn't know about it.
Loz knew about it, but you didn't know.
Yeah, Loz did know about it. I didn't know about it. But I suppose if I was to do that, like forcing a 3-3 tie, you do that at tribal, like after, and I guess you vote. It's 3-3. Eden's advantage couldn't be played at that point in time anymore. And but like that's what I wish I did. But that's with hindsight, and it probably wasn't the game that I was playing. Like for me to force a 3-3 tie to save John, who I really had only known for a couple of hours, even though I trusted him, it was probably too risky for what I was wanting to do on day one.
Do you think Ed would have gone to rocks for John? Because he's the one who's exposed in that situation.
Look, I don't think anyone could really say what Ed would or wouldn't do. I think he would have really gone with what I had proposed to him. The edit shows that I feel Loz, like it's spoken a bit about Loz and Ed being a pair and close. My perspective of it is that Ed and I were actually closer, and I think if push came to shove, that Ed probably would have gone with me instead of Loz, if it actually got to that point.
Yeah, look,
you have to ask Ed though, I suppose. Like Loz would probably sit here and go, "No, I had Ed with me." But yeah, my perspective was that that Ed and I were tighter.
Yeah, look, Ed's so it says Ed would have been happily guided to rocks. And look, I think Ed, by his own admission in the show, is leadable and influenceable. And it just comes down to, I don't necessarily think it's who has the greater influence. I don't think, obviously, both you and Loz had some influence upon him. But I think it's more so that, well, you'd be saying, look, mate, John throughout his game to come with us. He's with us. Let's all be loyal to each other. Let's stick it out, be true. Like I think, I've never met Ed, but based on the person I've seen on my screen, that would be a convincing argument. Yeah,
I agree. I think, it's something that I think could have worked, but we'll never know.
But I appreciate the challenge. I get that's a real tough regret because you're trying to play subtle, but now you know that was the last vote before the merge, so you could have made a big move. You had the immunity, so that's your time. That's every survivor fan knows. When you're immune, that's your chance to have a swing because you don't have to worry about it blowing back on you.
Yeah.
Right then. I mean,
but you just, like, I didn't probably realize that it was about to be merge. If I'd known that was it, we're going to merge next, that probably, like, and I knew that I was safe and we were going to merge, I think I would have been more tempted to do that. And people, like, I still get, like, I've got my family chat, like, just go on and on about my bromance with Ed, and joke that he's coming to family Christmas this year. But yeah, like he was just an enjoyable person to be around, but someone that I really enjoyed playing with as well.
Maybe you're going to steal him to work at your school now.
Oh, I could, yeah. Look, he's high school and I'm primary school, but I've worked with plenty of high school teachers who've come across to primary school. So I look